Hello and welcome to the 2021 NAMM show. This is Max Sulkowski along with Nason Tackett coming to you live from our headquarters here in Huntsville, Alabama. Here right now at this session to talk to you about some advanced features on the Pro system. Anything from cards and things and hidden things that you normally you just wouldn't see. And if any questions come up, that type of thing, let us know. We'll do what we can to get them answered for you. And for now, I'm going to let Nason take it over and we'll learn some stuff.
One thing I wanted to say before we get into it is we do have a giveaway that we're doing. If you request to do a one-on-one meeting with us, you can do a video chat with us just kind of like this and ask questions. We can show you things. And you'll, if you do that, your name will be entered to win one of our, actually we're going to give 10 of these away. It's our condenser microphone. This is actually a pretty decent sounding mic. Works with the Pro system, but really with anything that's XLR with phantom power. So if you want a free mic, go out there and request to do a one-on-one meeting. So basically, we ended up deciding to split off the Pro discussion that we did earlier and make a more advanced, because we really couldn't cram everything into one session. So in the beginning, the mixer, when we first released it in 2015, was very simple. It was basically the functions that you see on the front of it. You've got the ability to do pan and auxiliary input and presets and the intercom. Well, after going to some of these shows and talking to people, there were suggestions and some of them were really good suggestions. So we decided to implement some of these things, and the way we decided to do that was to do this in basically like a button combination sort of manner, so that the more advanced user would know how to do it, but we wanted to keep it very simple for the 70-year-old lady that comes in and plays piano at the church just on Sunday morning. Having the very simple interface, as few buttons as possible, having a knob per channel just makes it very easy to walk up and use. There's no training necessary, but we can do some of these more advanced things through some of these button combinations and also through the app.
Correct.
So I'll point out before we get started that we actually have this little cheat sheet that you can go download off of our website. It's front and back. So this is a really cool little, and actually there's two of them. There's one for the engineer, which is the one I've got, and then there's one for the user, which actually has a little bit less on it.
Just a single page.
It's just a single page. So basically, I'm going to run through this, and I'll also talk about a few other things that are noteworthy about the HearBack Pro. And Carrie's pointed out that this stuff is also in the manual too. Yes. So if you pull up the user manual, we also have that in there. But if you want it just on a real quick reference sheet, we have the little cheat sheet. So one of the first things that we added, and actually I remember doing this was really kind of for us at the trade shows, was a way to wipe the mixer, because we show people how to use the mixer and then we want to be able to kind of wipe it back to a default state quickly. And then we said, that's something that people are definitely going to find pretty useful. So I'm going to go over to the document camera and I'll show you what some of these different button combinations are. So right now I've got different things assigned, and I'm going to kind of turn some channels up. I'm not going to turn the master up, so you don't necessarily need to hear what I'm doing. But if I wanted to wipe this, if I hold down the pan and the aux button for a couple of seconds, the lights will flash, and then what that does is it puts all the levels back to 0. It also changes the routing back to the default, where it's a 1-to-1 mapping. Channel 1 is on knob 1, channel 2 is on knob 2, and so on. Puts all your pans back in the center. If there are some stereo channels, which you see here, they're going to go back to being full width. Now, one thing I'll point out here that's a little different from the version 2 firmware, the earlier versions of firmware, the stereo linking information, like when I go here to width and you see some of these channels are stereo, that's the stereo linking information would get wiped back to everything being mono on the older firmware, but on the new firmware starting at V5, that's not the case because the stereo linking is stored on the hub. So that stuff is going to retain even if you wipe the mixer. You're going to still have the channels linked together that are stereo. So anyhow, what we've done is we've basically got this blank slate here that we could start working a new mix, or if we wanted to, we could jump to another preset. But I will point out that if I jump to another preset, it is going to store what I have here onto preset 1. That's part of the new firmware, is when you do jump to another preset, it's saving that before you load the next preset. So basically we've got a blank preset on 1. For some reason, if I wanted to put what I have on preset 4, which is different, maybe back to number 1, I'll show you another little trick. This is cool. So I want to take what I have here and I want to store it on 1 because maybe I want to take that as a template, but then I want to change it. If you hold that button down, it starts blinking fast on 4, and then after a few seconds it starts going through the different preset lights. So you saw after I held it for a couple seconds, it went from 4 to 1. If I would have kept holding it, would have went to 2, 3, 4, and so on. I let go when it was on 1, and what that did was it just stored what was on preset 4 is on 1 as well. So now if I go to 4, you'll see it's the same routing on the screen, but maybe I can come in here and make some changes, or I could put something different on some of these other knobs and store that. But that's one really cool way to kind of take a template and copy and paste it. You can also do that through the app, which I'll get into in a few minutes. But the next thing I will get into is a function called the signal present mode. And you can do that by holding down
signal present mode is only available on a preset that does not have some submixes.
So I'm going to go, actually what I'll do is I will go into 128 mode.
There you go.
And I believe is our song running?
Yes.
I think our Dante controller may have
Yeah, I think our
crashed.
I think Dante crashed. Yeah.
We're not getting any channels. You want to check that out, Max?
Yeah.
So what you are going to see here once he gets that back up and running, each channel set of LEDs will light up. All the LEDs will light up to indicate that there is signal on that channel. It'll basically blink with the beat, blink with the signal. So at a glance, this is really a cool way that you can see where you have signal. So maybe if you're tapping on a microphone, you can see where you're at. For some reason, if you don't know what is where, you can quickly see what's going on. You also have a RMS meter around your master knob in this mode, so you can kind of see what your overall mix is doing. You can see how much headroom you have, for example. So that's kind of a cool feature. This is really probably more of a engineer sort of feature. So if you're hunting for a channel, this is maybe a good way to do it. If you want to see how much headroom you have, this is really a cool way to do it. Now, related to this is solo in place, and it's actually the same button, the aux button, but instead of holding it down, you hold it and then spin a knob, and it solos that channel. So now if I want to get out of the signals mode, you can see that I can just hit the aux button to exit out of that. And I'm going to exit back out of bank mode, which I was in, to show you that by hitting the preset button. I'll show you that here in a second. Now to solo, if I want to solo one of these to see what's on it, if I hold aux down and I spin that, and if I bring that up, and actually you should be hearing this I think if I turn my master volume up a little bit. Now if I go back and if I...
We don't have
We don't have any stems, do we? Yeah, maybe try to restarted the virtual sound card. There you go. Okay. Awesome. So right now, if I've got the click soloed, you should probably be able to hear that. If I spin another knob, you're going to hear that. Flip, Max, will you flip that input over to the other input? What was it on B?
Yeah, it was on B.
Go to A.
I did.
Okay, so it is. Okay, go back to B. We got channels, but they're showing up basically on different inputs because of the routing. So what we have on the label is not matching up because of that, but you get the idea of each time I spin a knob while I'm in solo mode, and you can see that you're in solo mode because the pan and the aux lights are flashing. That indicates solo mode, and it's going to stay in this mode. Basically, any knob that you spin is going to solo in place. And if you want to adjust the level, the master knob becomes your solo in place level. So yeah, I think you may or may not be getting audio depending on how this thing is routed. You got that? Okay. So you can see this also indicates your current level, and if I want to change that solo in place level, I've got this control right here. Now I'll note that does not affect your current mix. So when I leave the solo in place by hitting the aux button, it's going to go back to my mix. Whatever I had going on is still where it was at. So when you go into the solo mode, you're just soloing in place, and when you change that level, it's not going to be a permanent change. Basically, it's going to take whatever level was on that knob, and it's going to solo at that level. So if you have the channel kind of turned down low, it's going to solo at that level. I actually have the firmware set up, though. If you have it below 25%, it's actually going to bring it up to 25%. So if you have the channel off, it's at least going to bring it up to the 25%. And then if it's not loud enough, you simply just have to turn the solo in place level up. So solo in place is really cool. You can use it in two different modes. So I soloed right here on my main 16 knobs, which these knobs are assignable. They could have a stereo, they could have a mono, they could have I'm going to turn that down, they could have a submix, and of course that's indicated right here. The drums, it has this little bar on the left and right. If you're using the new digital overlay, that indicates that's a stereo channel, whereas bass guitar does not have that. It indicates that that's a mono channel. If I go and assign a submix, then it's going to put a box around that, indicating it's a submix. Now, you can solo those things. You can solo the stereo, you can solo the mono, you can even solo the submix. Now, if you want to go in and you want to just solo the inputs one by one to see what is going on where, then you can also do that in the bank mode, which is the next thing that I'll show you. So this is really a cool thing for really for engineers to kind of see what's going on. I really don't recommend using the mixer this way. It basically lets you have access to all the input channels. Yes, you can mix up to 128 channels, but it's, in my opinion, very ridiculous if you're trying to perform. To do this, you hold preset down and you spin the master knob. So now we're in bank mode, and you may not be able to see it real clearly, but very lightly, all of the LEDs around the master knob are blinking, and that indicates that you're in bank mode. Now what this does is now these knobs are going to indicate on a one-to-one mapping what is actually coming into your hub. So channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, so on, into your hub. And this light down here blinking indicates that you're on bank 1. The second light is lit up, that means I have 2 banks. If I were to hook up another hub, you would light up 3 and 4 because every hub has the ability to do 32 channels. If you hook up another hub, you'll actually have 2 more banks, and a 4th hub would give you up to 8 banks. When I push this, it jumps between the banks. If I had another hub, it would go to 3, then 4, then it would wrap around and it would blink number 1 twice quickly. It would go blink, 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 indicating that that's bank 5, then 6, 7, then 8. So you can cycle through 8 banks. The names, if you're using the digital overlay, these names are stored on the hub. So it's grabbing these names off of the hub. Those names, we'll talk about how to edit those here in just a second. But this basically allows you to go through, and if you want to, you can turn things up and down. You can mix from any of these channels. And I don't think we really have anything coming in on these upper channels right now. But this right here is a mode in itself. You can leave the mixer in this mode. If I were to power it down right now and bring it back up, it'll come back up in this bank mode. And you can just live there if you want to. If you just want to always power it up and you always want to have access to all your input channels and just mix them in bank mode, that's fine. You basically lose presets when you do that, with the exception to the current working preset. Whatever you're doing, it's always going to be frozen there when you power down and you power back up. It'll remember where everything is at. So in this mode, we were talking about soloing a second ago. You can solo in this mode. So if you hold down aux and you spin one of these knobs, then you basically can solo those different input channels. So solo basically works in bank mode as well. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is channel linking for doing stereo channels. With our older firmware, and now to exit bank mode, I'm going to hit preset. That's going to, actually got to hold it. That gets you back out. Now we're back to where we were with the assigned channels on the knobs. If you want to link channels with our original firmware, you would simply hold down pan and you'd go into channel linking mode. Well, we changed that because it's no longer stored on the mixer. The channel linking is stored on the hub. So you can actually change channel linking with the app, or you can change it with the hub configurator software that can run on a desktop computer using the USB connection. And you can also do it on the mixer, but keep in mind it's global. So if you change it on one mixer, it's going to change it on all of them. To get into this mode, you can do it if you currently have a one-to-one mapping on the mixer. Otherwise, right now I do not have a one-to-one mapping. I have a bunch of custom assigned stuff. If I hold down that pan button, it does nothing. So to show you, if I wanted to, I can do what we talked about earlier and initialize it. Now it does have a one-to-one mapping, and if I hold down pan, then I can get into channel linking mode. So right now you've got all your channels blinking. You see some of them like up here. These are the first 4 LEDs are blinking and the second 4. This means that this is a stereo pair, whereas right here this just has a single dot. That means that's a mono, mono, stereo, and so forth. Now if I want to change something, I could spin that. Now that is stereo, and you also see the bars come to the left and right on the little screen. This is changing it globally, so any mixer that's hooked up is going to see these settings, and it's going to be stored on the hub. Now if I want to exit, just hold down pan, you can exit. That works if you have the one-to-one mapping, like I said. If you don't, if you're on, say, like a preset that has some routing, the only way that you can do that is if you go into bank mode first. Then you can hold down pan and you can get into, and this allows you to basically get to all of your channels. This is really kind of the way to do it because it's on an input basis. So if you have 128 channels, well, this is really the only place you're going to actually be able to see all 128 channels and go through and do your stereo linking. So It's just one way to do it. We have several ways to do everything. The app is a lot easier to do that on. And let's see here. I think the next thing I want to do is grouping. This is a super, super cool feature. So grouping, actually, it's mirroring, and the mirroring has a group. So mirror like a mirror that you look into and you see yourself. You're basically mirroring what's on one mixer to what's on another mixer. This is really cool for, actually we developed it for a drummer that the sound engineer wanted to be able to help him with the mix, but he also wanted to have access to it. So they actually had two mixers and they mirror each other. To do this, you put them in a group, because you can actually have a whole bunch of different groups that are, you know, some mixers are mirrored together, these other mixers are mirrored together, you know, and so on. So what I am going to do, I have this one in, this is in group one, mirror group one. To put this one in the same mirror group, which will make it reflect what that's doing, if I hold down the aux and the preset, and then I spin a knob. Right now, the lights lit up around the master mean that it is not in a mirror group, that the mirroring is currently turned off. But if I spin knob 1 while I'm holding these two buttons, that means it's going to put it in group 1. If I do 2, group 2, and so on. You can actually do 16 on a mixer, but from the app you can do 128 different groups. So now you'll notice up here at the top, there's a box now around the mixer name. That means that that mixer is in a mirror group. And whatever I do on one, it's going to do on the other. So you'll see if I turn a knob here, it's changing this guy. And if I turn a knob here, it's going to change that guy. So they're doing the exact same thing. This even works when you go into bank mode, when you go into solo. Well, actually, there's a few exceptions. Solo only happens on the mixer you're in front of, not the one that's in the mirror group. By default, the master volumes are separate, but you can, through the app, actually change it to where the volumes are synchronized. We have a question I'm going to go ahead and take.
Does this have the ability to save snapshots or presets so certain musicians can come back and recall their mixes?
Yes. So the easiest way to do that is basically using the preset button. You've got the ability to store locally 4 different presets, which store your levels, your pans, your widths, your routing. All of those functions are stored into that preset. So that's the real easy way to do it. You can also store things on the app if you want to get a little bit more crazy with it. You can even do copying and pasting with the app. So to keep it real simple, the mixer's the easy way to do that. And then if you want to get a little more complex, the app will do it. So now back to the grouping. Like I was saying, the master knobs are separate. Of course, intercom is separate. You can broadcast intercom from one, but not the other. So like I'm broadcasting intercom, it's going to everybody, it's blinking on this guy. Or, you know, I could do it from this one, and it's going to go to the other guys. You can have up to 4 people talking on the intercom simultaneously. While I'm mentioning intercom, I will mention if you want to latch it, there's a little trick where if you push it once real quickly, that latches it. Of course, I could also do it again on another one. I could say, okay, I want both of these. Now both of those guys are latched and talking. You could have 2 more, up to 4 people talking simultaneously. So if you don't want to latch it, pushing it down is momentary. It's just the quick push that does the latch. I think, is that all we wanted to say on grouping?
Yeah.
We want to show another extension of grouping is with the virtual mixer, which is more, we call it pairing, because with the virtual mixer, which we have in this hub right here, it's this guy with the 2 XLR outputs. This is this entire mixer crammed into a card that fits inside the hub. It doesn't have the headphone amplifier and it doesn't have all the knobs, but it has the engine, the mixing engine, and it's got the left and right balanced outputs as well as a line input, balanced line input. It doesn't have the mic pre. You would have to provide that if you wanted to do a talkback mic. But this card can be controlled either from the iOS app, or it can be controlled from another mixer. So we're going to show you how to control it from another mixer. It's called pairing. it uses the same mirroring functionality, but the way you go about doing it is a little different. So Max is going to put this thing into pair mode.
See if I can see it.
There's a little button called pair. You use a small
Right
screwdriver or like
I got a pair of tweezers.
a tack, thumbtack will work, but push and hold it until the light starts blinking. And once it starts blinking, camera's not really picking it up. It's blinking real fast. It's going, so, all right, it goes out and makes sure that it finds a group first, and then it starts blinking kind of once a second saying, okay, I'm ready. Now, if I want to put another mixer paired with it, I hit the same two buttons, aux and preset, just like I did to go into grouping mode, but all I did was hit them. I didn't hold them and hit a knob. I just hit aux and preset. When you do that, when you hit aux and preset on any mixer, when you currently have the virtual mixer in pair mode, and what that means is you can only have one in pair mode at a time. So if I try to put another card in pair mode, it'll actually bump the first one off. Only one of them can be broadcasting, I'm in pair mode. And then any mixer that is going to hold down aux and preset will join that group with that mixer. If you want to join multiples with it, the best way to do that is you either get all your buddies to all hit aux and preset at the same time, or you use the app and you basically can just drag other mixers into that same group. And I'll show that briefly here in just a minute. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to kind of brush through this quickly. But now that we're paired with that thing, I can control it just the same way. So this surface now controls this. One exception is when you're controlling a virtual card, my master volume now controls its master volume. Whereas when you're mirrored with another Pro mixer, their master volumes are independent. So that's one minor difference. Now, I think we pretty much kind of covered, okay, pairing the virtual mixer. One quick thing, copy and paste. If you want to take your settings and copy them from one mixer to another, but you don't want to put them into a mirror group, so I'm going to take this out of a group. And actually, I'll do it on this one, since this one wasn't in the group. I've got all my settings here. Let's see, I'm going to bring up a preset. And this one, okay, we currently have some stuff assigned, but not everything. If I hold preset down until the light starts blinking, and then I hit intercom, and then let go, all four of these lights start blinking. That means I'm broadcasting my settings. And if anybody wants them, they can grab them from me. And to grab them, it's the same two buttons, but instead of holding the preset down first and then intercom, you just hit them simultaneously. See if I can do this. All the lights flash, and it just copied all the settings from this one to this one. It's a one-time thing. If I move something here, it's not going to move it here. It just copy, paste. So that's just a really cool way. If you kind of get a rough mix going on one mixer, maybe this is at your sound booth, you can copy and paste it to another one, paste it to another one. You can also do that from the app. Now, there are some other things enabling the intercom, enabling disabling the foot switch, checking the firmware version number. Those are some shortcuts. I'm going to skip over those because we don't have a lot of time left, but that's something you can look into the manual to get to. There's also even if you hold down the pan and the aux, while you power the system up, it wipes the entire mixer, all of the settings. So if you ever wanted to like sell the mixer and you wanted it to be a blank slate, that's one way to do it. That's actually not even in our sheet. That's something we do at the factory,
Yes.
but it's useful.
Yes.
So we have a minute left. Briefly, I'm just going to bring up the app. We're going to be talking about this in another session. So a lot of things that I referenced, we're going to be doing this in another, I guess, is that tomorrow
It's
that we're
tomorrow.
doing that? Okay.
Yes.
So we're going to be going over a lot of the things that I talked about today can also be done through the app. There's a lot of settings that you can get into. So we'll talk about that in another session. So we got to wrap up.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in. We only have 30 minutes, so please send us questions and stuff. We'll be happy to answer. Please schedule a one-on-one meeting with us. We'll
Yes.
answer any other questions you've got. And thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.